Guys, we'll talk about TRUG. Um, Two pretty clean trades on this. Missed a high day clear out, but I did long. A bunch of people in the Discord caught the 1 minute 20 long, very classic long. In a weaker market, these longs can still work, but it's overall they're happening earlier in the day and they don't have a lot of continuation, right? But the pattern's nice. The pattern's the same pattern, especially given the increasing volume, right? It was doing 400, 450K per minute. And I love the quick pullback, no obvious liquidity move. It just went up and it pulled back into an MA, right? And I really liked how the 1 minute 20 bids were holding down here. There was a bunch of bids, classic 1 minute 20 bid structure. And I liked, on low floats, I really like to see how these knife candles react to the bids, right? A lot of times they take out some of the bids. A lot of times they take them out, they come back up, and new bids come in, which is what happened in this case. Um, and yeah, you really like to see bids at a key MA level hold, right? So I went long here. A bunch of people in the room went long here. I de-risked a little bit because actually I'm usually quite bearish. These little pops into market open. Sometimes I like to get people to chase and then they dump. A little bit afraid of that, so I just took a little bit off, but I sold some straight into high day because the market conditions are just telling us that high day clearouts are working. Um, and then once it started knifing, I got out the rest. I didn't really have the plan to full sell my long at high day and then immediately flip short. That would have been pretty big brain if it happened. But I was all out of my long, and then it fell to the 1 minute 50, which was like down here. We got this quick pullback, right, to the 1 minute 50, but now we're in a market where we could start getting fake 5 minute flag patterns, right, where a stock soaks on the 1 minute 50, a 5 minute 9, makes a bullish rotation, and, the market just telling us, like, hey, as soon as like the first liquidity move, short squeeze happens, start to look for a short, like the real short, right? Obviously, the real short could have been up here at a high day. How many high day clearouts have we had the past 5 trading days? Like 7? I don't know. That all worked. And then, so we got a bullish rotation, no bid follow up, and then they did one of my favorite things where we'll look on the book where they pull it back, they stack a new ask, they fill the new ask, and then pull the stock. And I shorted right as that ask got filled. And then I started covering just because on the, in low floats, a lot of times these big knife candles, when you get, they started stacking really big bids down here, right? And it creates a lot of empty space up here. And since my average is all the way like at 2 instead of high day, I just wanted to de-risk a little bit into 1.7s. I saw this move. I thought, oh, maybe they'll do like this type of pattern where they go for the lower high and then pull it. I'm like, that'd be a weaker market pattern. But right now the market's so weak that none of these pushes are even breaking this lower high, which is actually contributing right now. The stock is still trading in this range. I actually did cover, this is a 1 minute 200 cover. This is a cover into bids. And I took this cover over here. I'm out most of my position just because they keep stacking these like 40,000 share bids down here. And the volume is just getting really, really, really low. And it's kind of in this holding pattern. And a couple different things could happen. Like maybe, especially in the after hours, when the order book is a little thinner, they could squeeze it in the after hours. Maybe they just unwind it in the after hours. Who knows? But I really don't like it when we get prolonged periods of very, very little volume, right? Where it's like you get a lot of candles that are trading like 1,000 shares a minute, and it's happening for like 1 hour, 45 minutes, an hour and a half. I hate, like, it's to me, it's kind of up in the air the way it can go. You know, most people want to be, like to be bearish because low floats are downtrending stocks, and they just bet on the side of, continuation to the downside. But I like to de-risk a little bit when I see volume get that low. I think the price action just gets really choppy, and sometimes it grinds higher, sometimes it goes lower. It's not immediately obvious to me what's going to happen. So we'll go to the chart. Here's the 1 minute 20. Here's the volume coming in. Let's just look at this. So we got 400K candles. It just rolls over. Nice down only dump into the 1 minute 20. Classic MA. And then we just look at what the bids are doing there. And I like to see those bids get tested for, I do like to see them get tested for 3, 4, 5 minutes. I don't immediately long into the first test of those bids. You can see the bids, and you can see how empty the order book is to the upside. And here's that like mini knife it did. It's like, because what happens is they test the bids, it does a mini pop, usually with no bid follow up, and then they knife it. And then I like to watch the knife, right? And it was down here that I saw a lot of soaking. The bids were holding, and there were more bids down here that that I can risk off of. You could see them start to stack new bid. I actually got a little bit afraid here because I longed based on this bid follow up, right? And they actually pulled this bid, and they started pulling these bids, and I thought this might hit this ask and just roll. I thought I was going to get stopped out because usually this type of reaction, doesn't take another 5-7 minutes to push. But it's something really interesting happened. They put a 50,000 share ask. You actually can't see it on DXF feed, which is what my bookmap is, because the route that the 50,000 share bid was on wasn't on DXF feed. But they filled the ask. There's a 50,000 share ask that they filled right here, right? So they filled that ask, they knifed it, and they rigged it back up and filled another big ask. So what was happening on this is on this push from here at 2, and then here at market, and then of course market open is trading 2 million shares a minute. I was like, okay, cool. Maybe it just at the very least pushes high day. I was already planning to immediately sell once high day got broken for a good chunk of my position. They did a nice little, this is classic low float. They do a 931 pullback, or, late 930, 931 pullback into some bids. They rotate it back up. But what was interesting is they're filling, there's like these big asks. On this whole push up, there's like these 20,000 share asks are getting filled, breaks high a day, and then it faded, right? So, just how a lot of times big bids get filled before a stock initiated, it's also pretty common for a lot of big asks to get filled, right? So here's the pullback into the 1 minute 50. We'll go to the chart really fast. Actually, going to be a pretty short video. This is pretty self-explanatory. High day clear out. So in a strong market, we were seeing pullbacks under VWAP. They would throw up bids. I'm talking like a month ago. They would throw up bids, and this would higher day up halt squeeze. Like that was the type of price action we're getting. So it's very important to know what the market conditions are, because it's the difference between looking for a long down here. And I called this out on my Discord. I was like, oh, there's a bunch of bids on the 1 minute 50. But in a weaker market, those bids will have no bid follow up on the pushes and a knife, where in a stronger market, there's bid follow up and much more aggression, right? Much bigger, where a lot of times high day clear outs at market open were huge short traps, right? During February and, earlier in the year. And we can see that. We can see the push right here. They're filling an ask. Like, this is actually very bearish. It's bearish given the market conditions and given the no bid follow up, and the fact that high day clearouts are working in this market. And then here's that classic little thing they do where they push it, they pull back. There's a second push into an ask. They fill the ask and then they knife it. Once I saw this, I just went short. I was like, well, this is a weak enough market where the lack of bid follow up and the second push getting soaked, was pretty confident it was gonna knife. And here are those big bids I initially covered into. They rotated it back up. You can actually see them throwing up little bids, and it gets to the top and they knife it. And this is the 1 minute 200 cover. They throw up a lot of these bids are pretty big for a low float, 20, 30K bids. And then the only thing, I was waiting for all day on this was, and this is why I think in the after hours, you could see this candle did not go this high. This candle went to like this. Sorry. Went to like this or something. You could see the lower high. There's a lower high. There's a lower high. There's a lower. Now we're getting VWAP resistance. And who knows what's going to happen, but it could very well happen that the stock just simply does not have the liquidity to push intraday. They're soaking all the selling, right? If we zoom out a little bit, we'll actually see that probably in the hour. See what happens on the hourly. Like the 1 minute 9's catching up on the hourly. And it could just come. The only annoying thing you can, by the way, in Thinkorswim, you can fix candlesticks by right clicking and clicking correct this bar. The only thing that sucks about it is that it stops VWAP wherever you edit it. So that's why my VWAP disappeared. But yeah, they could just be using, it'd be pretty common in a weaker environment to wait for the after hours to maybe do some type of backside push. Who knows? Maybe it goes straight through high day, or maybe they just, this 208, 210 level, or maybe it fades. I don't know. Who knows? I'm probably not going to be around for it, so, I'm only holding a little bit. I'll probably just cover the rest, and whatever happens, happens. But yeah, nice little pattern. And the only other thing I traded was WorkX. I actually shorted it. They gave the same pattern on WorkX. This was the pattern I got stopped out yesterday. By the way, insane high day. This was a great long. I'm kicking myself for missing this long, right? I'm usually bullish multi-day runs. When stocks go on multi-day runs, I'm usually inherently bullish. They tend to be quite strong. They tend to have multiple support levels from previous days that stocks can hold from. So I did not want to short this at all. What made this long off the 1 minute 50 right here so nice was the lower high paint. Lower high, lower high, lower high. Long off the 1 minute 50 here. This is a classic long pattern. I was kicking myself for not hitting this in the 350s, 360s down here. Because the lower high paint plus the multi-day run plus decent volume was really nice. And then they did. I don't like hitting high day clearouts on multi-day runs. I don't hit a lot. Nowadays, I actually don't even hit a lot of high day clearouts in general, even though I should be in these market conditions. But in multi-day runners, I'm a little afraid of them being short traps. And look at this. This was actually great. They had an up-only squeeze. They squeezed a high day clearout shorts. And then they gave a nice little pattern here that was the same pattern I shorted yesterday. I'll just go to it right now. It's the exact same pattern. Where, not as extreme, but the same idea, where it's a common long trap pattern to swipe some bids. You can see the two bids right here. There's two bids. They fill these bids. They do an aggressive initiation. This 4.3 level had 30,000 shares on the ask, and what they did is they used the aggressive initiation to fill the 30,000 shares, and then they started pulling it back, and I shorted pretty much right away. I was watching those 30,000 shares get filled on the level 2, and it popped. If you zoom in, it actually popped to 431 very briefly right here, and I saw it immediately come back down, and I started shorting in the 420s. Just kind of assume it's the same pattern as the one yesterday, and luckily this one ended up working. Only thing I will say about this is I saw this candle, and in my Discord I was like, this candle could easily be a long trap where they had this deep VWAP swipe and you can see the volume, right? Deep VWAP swipe and a big push, right? Which we could see on the level 2, on the book, right? VWAP swipe, big push. This pattern not only works well in a weaker market, but it works well in this context because the stock has already squeezed so aggressively. Not only this push, but also this push, right? The more a stock extends and the more short traps get executed, and the more that shorts get stopped out and the more legs up a stock has, the more likely candles like this are going to essentially just be long traps. Where you get a massive soak, it hits a clean seller, and it fades, right? That being said, I covered on the 1 minute 200, and I actually covered some more near 350 for the same reason as TRUG, where you get this prolonged period of zero volume, and you can see what's happening here, right? Also, it's on a multi-day run. I mean, if you actually zoom out, it's riding the 1 hour 9 really clean, super clean, right? So on a longer term time frame, it's actually very bullish. It's not even below the 1m20ema. And like I said, multi-day runners tend to have a lot of support levels. So when the volume started getting zero, I was like, well, maybe I'll hold for below a day. But I took some off here, and then I took the rest off in this consolidate. I just didn't want to do it. It's just thin and grindy, and it's holding the hourly MAs, and the volume is zero. And even if this is gonna eventually fade, it's a lot harder to tell what's gonna happen on these thin, grindy, multi-day runners, right? So, especially if you look at this, look how aggressive this selling is. It's the same concept. You get this aggressive down-only selling, and now there's all this backside space that in the after hours or tomorrow, it can rotate into. And I just didn't want to deal with it. So, anyways, trading went really well today, super well. And TRUG, just classic low float stuff. I'm very interested to see what happens in the after hours on this thing. See if they initiate it, maybe start to push it a little more, or maybe they pull it. There's a lot of higher lows on this thing. We still got some higher lows. This candle did not go this low, but we still got some higher lows. So see how that goes. Anyways, that's it for today. TRUG and some WORX, and yeah, some weaker market stuff. You still get some nice longs, but the volume, the time frame, the fact that this was in pre-market, the fact that it was really still on pretty much its second push here. I guess you could count this as a second push, but yeah, in this market you get a lot less continuation, but nice clean 1 minute 20 push. So a lot of people in the room caught the long, and then some people caught the short. Too bad it got, it did this zero volume sideways soak thing all day. But not every ticker is gonna fade to the 5 minute 200, that type of thing. So anyways, that's it for today. You guys have a good one. Information down below about the Discord. I'll see you later.